Adding assets to a CMMS is usually the very first step because almost all the other features are going to depend on having assets. So let's start off with adding our first asset in Limble. So I'm going to go to the Assets page, and as you can see here, there is an Add an Asset button. So I'm going to select this, and for this example, I'm going to add an HVAC unit, an air conditioning unit. So I'm going to type in here HVAC, and then I like to put a number for each one of my assets. And the reason why is it makes it so much easier if you have an individual number, a unique number for each one of your assets. So I put the 001, even if we only have 4 or 5, just in case we ever get more, we have to retire some of those assets. Okay, so now all I do is hit add, and I'm done. I've added my first asset. It's as easy as that. So let's add a few more assets here. So my HVAC is probably going to be on the roof. Now, roof, some people may not see that as an asset. They might see that as a location, but I'm going to show you how you can create an organization in Limble to help you keep everything organized. So my HVAC unit is part of the roof, so I'm just going to grab this little 4-way arrow, and I'm going to drop it on the name of roof, and now HVAC is on the roof. The next thing I'm going to do here is add a warehouse. Again, that's also, many people would say that's a location, but this is going to allow us to, when people submit problems, they're going to be able to say the problem is in the warehouse. And in my warehouse, I have a forklift. So I'm just going to type here forklift. And remember, I like all my assets to have a unique name, so I'm going to do 001 again. And I'm going to do a little space dash space just to keep it consistent. Okay, and now I'm just going to drag and drop it here. Now sometimes we get asked, how deep should I go? Should I put the motor of the forklift as an asset? And typically I would say, no, you don't need to go that deep. I just want to have assets where I want data. So I probably don't need data on just the motor by itself. If it's inside the forklift asset and I can see the history there on the forklift, that's good enough. Okay. So now that we've created a few of these assets, I'd like to return back to the strategy and say, if entering it this way of just doing one by one is too long, you can also import your assets from an Excel sheet or some other spreadsheet. And that's going to be covered in a different tutorial, but I wanted to make sure that you knew it was there. And to do that, you click on the import assets, and it's even going to show you a little download sheet, and you can upload your CSV. Again, a different tutorial is going to go more in depth there. The next thing I would like to talk about is the strategy for adding your assets in Limble. So the first step is to do what we've already done, which is add your important assets and organize them into groups, or in your hierarchy is what we normally call it. The next step after that is to start getting value from these assets that you've added in Limble. And the way that you do that is you start using Limble to managing your work and your tasks. You can do that more on the Manage Work screen, but this is where you start giving your work orders to your team and helping them be organized with Limble. And you're going to find that that's going to save you time and give you more opportunities to work on the next step, which is perfecting your assets. So in the perfecting your assets stage, this is where you start adding information like manuals, photos, other asset details that are going to help you and your team. And that's what the rest of this tutorial is going to cover. So now that we've added all of our assets, let's say, for our location, we might want to start adding some more information. So I'm going to click on this HVAC 001, and I'm going to pull up what we call an asset card. So here we can see the asset card. There's a bunch of different tabs here, and we're going to go through all of these. So the first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to add a picture. Now, if you're just starting out using Limble, don't feel like you need to put pictures in right away, but it's something that you can add later on that might be helpful for your team. And here is where I start adding information for the asset. So when I click on Add Field, Limble comes with 3 different fields. It comes with category, make, and model. I'm just going to do make and model in this case. So I click on both of those, and then I hit Create. Okay, so the make for this asset is a sear, and then the model is for T CAS. And maybe I want the make to come before the model, so I'll just move that above there. Okay, so now I've added some basic information for this asset, but you can create other types of information that are helpful for whatever your needs are. And that's one thing that's great about Limble is it's super flexible. So when I click on Add Field here, let's say I want to upload a maintenance manual to this asset. So I'm going to create a new field, and I'm going to call this one Manual. And then I'm going to choose the document type. You can see there's a bunch of other types here, but I'm going to choose the document in this case. So I'm going to hit create here, and now I can upload a document. So I'm going to upload my document. I happen to have maintenance manual right here ready to go, and now that is uploaded. And what I love about this feature is I hate going to look for a manual. I hate finding one that's missing pages or covered in grease. Instead, it's going to be wherever I can access my software. So on my phone, on my computer, all I have to do is click on it, and boom, it comes right up. So going back to this page here, we can add a bunch of other fields. I'm not going to go in depth into every single type that you can add, but I'm going to add another common one here, and I'm going to add a meter reading of some sort. Now, this particular asset doesn't need an hour meter or anything like that, but we'll say maybe I have a pressure differential on there so I can measure, how clogged the filter is. So I'm just going to call this pressure differential, and that's going to be measured in PSI as an example. And now that I've done that, I'm going to choose a number type. The reason why I choose a number type is it won't allow for any letter characters, only numbers, and this is what's really good for meters. In other tutorials, you might see us use this for mileage or hour meters or anything like that. So I'm just going to do a number here, and let's say that I just checked it, and I'm going to put here that, it was 0.2 PSI. So I can actually see a history of all of those past meter readings and who changed those and when. And so that can be helpful for especially like hour meters and things like that. Okay, so now we've added some information to our asset. Now I want to show you these other tabs. The next one is the PM tab. Now PM stands for planned maintenance. Some people call it preventative maintenance or preventive maintenance. It's all working the same way. Basically, it's a type of recurring task, a task that's going to happen on a regular basis. So next thing I'm going to do here is add a PM template. Now in another tutorial, we're going to go in more in depth into PM, so I'm just going to make this quick and to the point. So I'm just going to call this one change filter is the name of the task. And then when I click on this, I can add instructions. I'm just going to add an easy instruction. My team already knows how to change a filter, so I don't need to build out pictures and all these details in this case. So I'm just going to say change filter for a new one. Okay, and typically the best practice is to add a part and pull that part from inventory. But again, this is the introductory step of Limble. We're just adding a single asset. We're not going to go really in depth in how the parts work. So I'm going to skip that, and in the parts tutorial, you're going to learn more about how parts are used. So I've added a quick PM here. I'm going to make a schedule. I want this to happen every month. I like to have it on a day of the week, so we're in the office, so I'm going to say it's going to happen on the first Tuesday of the month, as you can see here. Save. And then I'm going to exit out of here and just assign it to my technician team. Okay, so now we've added a PM, and you're going to see here that I have the first PM template. And the rest of the tabs here that I want to show you, they're going to make more sense if we have some history on the asset. Now, this is a brand new account, so there's nothing there. So I'm going to use a little bit of movie magic and fast forward time as if we had some history on this asset. Okay, you can see that now we have some history and some more things built out on this asset. So the first thing you can see is another PM was added. You can see there's some history of some completed PMs, and those are some other things you can see in the PM tab, as well as any open PMs. On the work order screen, you can see if there's any past work orders that were completed, any open work orders. You can even start a work order from here. Currently, this asset doesn't have any information here because no work orders have been done. Now on the parts tab, what you can see is that there is an associated part. In this case, we have an air filter. And it has this little magic wand here because what it means is this was used on a task, this part, and so it just automatically added it to the list. But you can associate parts yourself just by clicking on this Associate Parts button. This one here is kind of to help you build out a bill of materials. So in this case, I'm going to say, this HVAC doesn't have one filter, it actually has 2 filters. So I'm going to put the number 2 here to say, okay, just so we know, there's 2 filters that are used on this asset. Next item here, vendors, you're going to see the complete list of any vendors associated with your asset, kind of like what you can see with parts. So in this case, Downtown Heating and Air is one of the vendors we use to service this piece of equipment. On the log tab, you can see a complete history of everything that's been done. You can search it. You can even select any of these tasks, and it's going to pull up that past task information. And lastly, on the reports tab, you're going to be able to see here, on this asset, you can see there's been 3 completed work. We don't have any unplanned work orders at this point. And we're going to be able to see a breakdown of cost and the ownership and future costs that are based on the PM. So you can see, every quarter we have a much larger expense due to our quarterly maintenance. So now that we have added a bunch of information to this asset, there's a couple other things I want to show you. First off, this HVAC unit, now it has a bunch of information. And we can actually copy this so we can add a second HVAC unit, and that's going to save us time. So I hit the copy button, and my new HVAC unit is HVAC 002. So I'm going to do that here. But you can see everything that I built out before, like the make, the model, the manual, it's already here ready to go. So that saves me a lot of time. The PMs are also there, and so that also saves me time. But if I look at the log, there is going to be no history here except for the fact that I changed the name of the asset. And that's because history on the other asset was specific to that asset, so you wouldn't want to copy that. But this is a great way to save a lot of time. So if you have similar assets, you maybe want to build out one first, and then you can just copy that a bunch of times, and then it'll save you time to building out your assets. So this concludes the tutorial on how to add an asset. It's pretty simple, as you've seen, but we would love to talk to you. We'd love to help you and make sure that you're getting the most value possible out of Limble. So I want to talk to you about 2 resources real quick. The first is this chat in the bottom right corner. If you ever want to talk to our team, go ahead and click on this, and you can just send a message, and it's going to go to our team, and you're going to receive a response back very quickly from a real person who wants to help you. And the other thing that I want to let you know about is each company gets a customer success manager. So find out who your customer success manager is and ask them any questions you want. Their job is to make sure that you're getting a lot of value out of Limble. And that's even something you can ask in the chat. So thanks a ton. Let us know how else we can help. Feel free to reach out to us in any way you can. And we're going to do whatever we can to make you successful.